Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, we will do an MMA overview of Fedor Emelianenko. We will examine the good parts, the bad parts, and the overall legacy of the last emperor. But before we begin, make sure you like and comment on this video. Also subscribe if you haven't. We're looking to get to 100 subscribers, and I can use your help. Thank you for your support. Now let's begin. In this video, we're going to take a closer look at one of the greatest fighters in mixed martial arts history, Fedor Emelianenko, also known as the Last Emperor. Standing at 6 feet tall and weighing in at 233 pounds, Fedor competed in both the heavyweight and openweight divisions. In 1997, Emelianenko received the certification of Master of Sports in Judo and Sambo, and also became part of the Russian national team. However, in 2000, due to a lack of money, he left the national team and began to compete professionally in mixed martial arts. He is also a first Razryet Grand Master in Sambo. Fedor's professional MMA career began in 2000, and it wasn't long before he established himself as one of the top fighters in the sport. He was the champion of the MMA Rings 2001 Absolute Class Tournament and Open Weight Title Tournament. He also achieved great success in Pride Fighting Championships, where he was the heavyweight champion from 2003 to 2007 and the winner of the Pride 2004 Heavyweight World Grand Prix. In addition to his MMA career, Fedor also had a successful career in Sambo. He was the FIAS World Combat Sambo Championship Heavyweight Champion in 2002, 2005, and 2007. He also won a bronze medal in the Russian Judo Federation National Championship in 1998 and 1999. Overall, Fedor Emelianenko is a true legend in the world of mixed martial arts, and his accomplishments in both MMA and Sambo speak for themselves. He will always be remembered as one of the greatest fighters of all time. The fighter hails from Rubizh in Luhansk Oblast in Ukraine. He began practicing Sambo and Judo at the age of 11 under the tutelage of Vasily Ivanovich Gavrilov and later under coach Vladimir Voronov. He trained with Russian top team and Fighting Network rings before leaving to train with the Red Devil Sport Club in St. Petersburg. He also trained with Voss Gym in the Netherlands, where he worked with Joanne Voss and Lucian Carbon. Emelianenko has also trained with notable coaches such as Ernesto Hust, Tyrone Spong, and Denis Lebedev. Let's examine the good of Fedor's career. Throughout his career, Emelianenko has faced many tough opponents, but there are a few that deserve honorable mention. In one of his most memorable fights, Fedor Emelianenko faced off against Japanese professional wrestler Yuji Nagata at Inoki Bayi 2003. Despite Nagata's lack of experience in the MMA world, with only one fight under his belt, he was chosen to face off against Emelianenko. The fight was short-lived, with Emelianenko knocking out Nagata just 1 minute into the bout. It was a clear demonstration of Emelianenko's dominance in the ring, cementing his status as one of the top fighters in the world. Another notable opponent is Zulu Zinu, who Emelianenko faced in Pride Shockwave 2005. Though the fight ended quickly, Zulu Zinu's size and strength made him a formidable opponent for Emelianenko. Now let's examine my favorite 10 wins of Fedor's career. He started MMA on May 21, 2000 at the Rings, Russia event by defeating Martin Lazarov by guillotine choke. It took Fedor 144 seconds to secure a guillotine stoppage. You can see the characteristic composure as the heavyweight all-timer spends much of his fight on his back. You can also see that he was dangerous in this position from the beginning. He then won 3 more bouts in rings. One of Fedor Emelianenko's most notable opponents was South Korean kickboxer turned MMA fighter Hongman Choi. Despite Choi's towering height advantage, Emelianenko was able to submit him via armbar at 154 of the first round. The fight took place at Yaronoka and was attended by a crowd of 27,128. This was Choi's first career loss and only his second professional fight. Fedor Emelianenko versus Mark Coleman, the two clashed in a highly anticipated matchup, with Emelianenko coming out on top in both instances. In the first fight, Emelianenko submitted Coleman via armbar at 2:12 of round 1. In the rematch, Emelianenko once again secured the victory, this time by submitting Coleman with an armbar at 1:15 of round 2. These two fights solidified Emelianenko's dominance in the heavyweight division and cemented his place as one of the greatest fighters of all time. Brett Rogers was a formidable opponent for Fedor Emelianenko in their Strikeforce bout. He was known for his heavy hands and knockout power, which he put on full display in this fight. Despite being the underdog, Rogers came out swinging and put pressure on Emelianenko right from the opening bell. He pushed the pace, throwing heavy shots and making Fedor work for every inch. Rogers' striking was precise and powerful, which made for a very exciting and competitive fight. He put up a solid performance and showed that he was not to be underestimated, making this bout one of the most memorable moments in Emelianenko's career. Fedor would win by knockout. In the main event of Pride 26 Bad to the Bone, Fedor Emelianenko faced off against Kazuyuki Fujita, a former Japanese professional wrestler known as Ironhead. Despite the competitive first round, Emelianenko managed to keep the pressure on Fujita with combinations and takedown attempts. However, Fujita's hard right hook caught Emelianenko off guard and put him on skates. The Russian quickly regained his composure and clinched with Fujita until he regained his footing. Emelianenko then finished Fujita with a flurry of strikes and a rear naked choke at the 4:17 mark of the first round. This was the first time in his professional career that Emelianenko looked to be in trouble during a fight. However, it also marked the beginning of a 6-fight streak where he finished each of his opponents in the first round. In one of the most highly anticipated bouts of the year, Fedor Emelianenko faced off against Kevin Randleman at Pride FC's Critical Countdown event. The matchup promised to be a showcase of two of the top heavyweights in the sport, and it did not disappoint. The first round began with both fighters feeling each other out, but it didn't take long for the action to heat up. Randleman charged in for a takedown and managed to take Emelianenko down into half-guard position, but Emelianenko was not one to be kept down for long, and he quickly rolled out and stood back up. Randleman, however, had other plans. He picked Emelianenko up and delivered a powerful suplex, sending the Russian crashing to the mat. Randleman ended up in north-south position and began to rain down strikes on Emelianenko, but Emelianenko was not done yet. He struggled into side control and began to land his own strikes on Randleman. He then grabbed Randleman's right arm and set up a Kimura submission hold. Emelianenko sank in the hold and Randleman was forced to tap out, giving Emelianenko the victory. The fight ended with a show of sportsmanship as Randleman picked up Emelianenko and the two hugged. However, it was revealed after the fight that Emelianenko had cracked 2 ribs after the suplex, but it did not prevent him from taking the victory. Next, let's look at his first and third fight with Antonio Nogueira. In the first fight, Fedor Emelianenko faced off against Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira. In the main event of Pride 25, Emelianenko was coming off of wins over Heath Herring and Semi Schilt, and his win over Nogueira initiated new heights of superstardom for him in MMA. Nogueira was game in defending himself for the first round, but was never able to mount any sort of offense against the unending onslaught of Fedor Emelianenko. In the end, Emelianenko won the match by unanimous decision, which earned him the title of Pride Heavyweight Champion. Following the win, Emelianenko went on to defeat all comers during his stay with Pride, winning the 2004 Heavyweight Grand Prix and defeating Nogueira, once again in a rematch the same year. In the third fight, Emelianenko repeated his first performance over Nogueira by pounding his way to another unanimous decision verdict. Emelianenko appeared quicker and stronger throughout and began to garner the first murmurs from fans that perhaps they were watching a legend in the making. The highly anticipated fight between Russian heavyweight Fedor Emelianenko and Croatian striker Mirko Cro Cop Filipovic. The fight took place in 2005, at a time when Emelianenko had been on an unbeaten streak for 3 years and was considered one of the greatest heavyweights in the world. The fight began with many fans unsure of how Emelianenko intended to counter Cro Cop's striking skills. However, Emelianenko's game plan was to take Cro Cop's strength head-on by pressing the action and forcing him to back up, disrupting his timing. Despite Cro Cop landing several hard shots and even bloodying Emelianenko's nose in the first round, Emelianenko's gambit on the feet proved successful. In the third round, Emelianenko took Cro Cop down and punished him with ground and pound, and even won the standing exchanges when the action resumed on the feet. It was an exciting and dramatic fight, but when the final bell sounded, the result was not in doubt. Emelianenko emerged victorious, solidifying his status as one of the greatest heavyweights in the world. The fight between Fedor Emelianenko and Tim Sylvia for the WAMMA Heavyweight Championship at Affliction BAM was a highly anticipated event, as Emelianenko had been criticized for a lack of top-quality competition in his previous fights. However, Emelianenko silenced those critics with a quick and decisive victory over the former UFC heavyweight champion. In the first round, Emelianenko stunned Sylvia early on before taking him to the ground and submitting him with a rear naked choke just 36 seconds into the fight. The quick and dominant victory solidified Emelianenko's position as the undisputed best heavyweight fighter in the world. In 2007 and 2008, Fedor Emelianenko had been facing criticism for not being considered the best in the heavyweight division of MMA. However, in January 2009, Emelianenko had the opportunity to silence his critics when he faced off against former UFC heavyweight champion Andrei Arlovski for the WAMMA Heavyweight Championship. In this highly anticipated match, Emelianenko wasted no time in showing his dominance, quickly defeating Orlovsky in the first round. Orlovsky started off strong, controlling the shooting range by kicking Emelianenko to the legs and body. However, Emelianenko's superior skills and experience proved too much for Orlovsky, and he secured a KO victory. This victory over a former UFC heavyweight champion was a major turning point for Emelianenko, and much of the criticism he had faced previously faded away. Emelianenko once again established himself as a top contender in the heavyweight division and cemented his place as one of the greatest fighters in MMA history. Now let's look at the bad of his in-ring career. These weren't really his fault, but they were blemishes nonetheless. In December 2000, Fedor Emelianenko faced off against Tsuyoshi Kosaka in the finals of the Pride 2004 Heavyweight Grand Prix. Unfortunately, the fight ended in a no contest due to a cut to Emelianenko resulting from an accidental headbutt. The fight and the finals it concluded were rescheduled. However, Emelianenko controlled the action in their other bouts to win 2 clear-cut decisions. This marked the first loss of Emelianenko's career. He also got a no contest to his second fight with Nogueira. This would force the final to be moved to another date, with Fedor ultimately winning. These next losses were more impactful on his legacy. In 2010, Fedor Emelianenko faced off against Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt Fabricio Verdum in his Strikeforce debut, looking to continue his incredible 28-fight winning streak. However, Verdum would snap that streak with an upset submission. Critics pointed to Verdum's size as a factor in the loss, but it was ultimately Verdum's skill and technical superiority that sealed Fedor's fate. Next, Fedor faced off against Antonio Silva, who was able to land 28 significant strikes in the fight, 8 more than any previous opponent in Fedor's career. Silva also landed 2 takedowns and attempted 3 submissions, all of which were records for opponents fighting against Fedor. Fedor's losing streak would continue in his next match against Dan Henderson. The fight ended in a controversial TKO victory for Henderson, with some believing that Fedor should have been given more time to defend himself after a big blow was landed. The end of the match was chaotic, as it appeared to some that Fedor Emelianenko was knocked out, while others believed that it wasn't clear he was out and that he should have gotten more time to defend himself. Herb Dean was trying to determine if Fedor was unconscious and whether Fedor's arms were moving up his body simply due to the awkwardness of the position, or Fedor's own will, might not have been easy to determine. In his Bellator debut, Fedor Emelianenko faced off against Matt Mitrione at Madison Square Garden. Despite a strong start, Emelianenko was unable to recover from a massive overhand from Mitrione, resulting in a first-round KO. Emelianenko squared off against Ryan Bader for the heavyweight Grand Prix title. Unfortunately for Emelianenko, the fight was over almost as soon as it began, with Bader landing a devastating left hook and right hand combination, resulting in a 35-second TKO. Emelianenko will look to get revenge in his next fight. Now let's examine his overall legacy. Between 2004 and 2006, Fedor Emelianenko established himself as one of the greatest heavyweights in the history of MMA. He defeated an incredibly talented class of fighters, showcasing his incredible striking and grappling skills in each match. His prime years were defined by the violence and pace of his striking, the power of his ground and pound, and his smooth transitions on the ground to arm bars and kimuras. These are the things that make his prime years feel special even today. It's worth noting that during this time period, Fedor's fights took place mainly in Japan as part of the Pride FC organization. This only added to his mystique, proving that you can be famous without the backing of the UFC. His work in the ring and cage inspired one of the biggest MMA scenes today in Russia, and it's not hard to see why, as he sets off to face Ryan Bader in his swan song Will the Last Emperor Get One Last Victory. If you stayed around, please share and like this video and subscribe to this channel. I got another video right here. Thanks for watching.